did the satellite thing, so we're good on satellite. So we're live on that. So, all right, streamers, welcome to the show, guys. It is the Vaughn and Chip show today. So it should be an exciting show. We got some good stuff for you guys. So hang in there. We'll be doing the formal intros in about 6.5 minutes when we start the radio portion of the show. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions or anything you want to type in that you want us to discuss, feel free to do that as well. And I just remembered that today we are going to be doing a giveaway. So I'm going to go and get the ticker going for the Galls gift card giveaway at the bottom of the screen. So you guys can type in the word Galls, that's Galls, and give us your email address if you're interested in getting the free $50 Galls gift card giveaway. And hey, Vaughn, I see that you've got the Force Science thing up there on YouTube. It just popped up. So that is good. You got a training coupon from Force Science as well, guys, that you'll see if you're on the YouTube portion of the show.
Yeah, thanks. It's just Force Science FS15 off, FS15 off. And that's for our online Force Encounters courses. We just released our brand new Force Science online Force Encounters course. So we wanted to make sure that people knew that's not just for police, it's for civilians as well. Anybody can access that, and we actually encourage it. So we want to give you guys a break and to get 15% off using that coupon. I will also upload the link to the training for those who are on YouTube and have a chance to look at that.
Perfect. And I'm looking, we are live on LinkedIn as well. So it looks like all the outlets are working properly. So that's always a plus. All right. Pretty exciting show today. I tell you, a lot of stuff going on. What a way to wake up on Saturday morning with this whole Venezuela thing. Wasn't that just like, wow. I was just like in shock. Oh.
Yeah, nothing like a little simple international operational law to wake up to, huh?
Yeah. Well, I noticed that they kept referring to it as a law enforcement operation, and then I finally got it. And then Marco Rubio, I think is the best at staying on track and keeping the narrative, what they need it to be, I guess legally at least anyhow. Otherwise, you're just looking at a government overthrow and an invasion and a
little regime change.
Yeah, regime change. Yeah, So, but under the narrative of grabbing a guy that's been indicted in New York and grabbing him and extracting him, you still have to explain away the regime change. But there's really been no regime change other than the bad guy being yanked out. They haven't really, the vice president's in charge, despite what Trump said, about them taking over. I think that they're kind of co-ruling or whatever. But I don't know, in the scheme of things, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I just don't want these hundreds of thousands of Americans dying of friggin' overdoses.
Yeah, I think both sides right now. Well, one, the international law questions are so complicated. To try to get them nailed out in a media soundbite is somewhat ridiculous. The pushback is, from some of the counter narratives are, so what are you going to do now? What's your plan? What's your plan? What's your plan? And you're like, well, listen, it was like a 40-minute operation, if that, from once they initiated it to extraction. Nobody's going to stand up there behind a podium and tell you what their plan is, particularly where you've still got an illegitimate regime operating the country, right? And so, yeah, they removed two people. They're trying to work behind the scenes, I think, with the current, we can call it the administration, you can call it the regime, what do you want to call it, those who are in political power, whether they're legitimate or not. The international community is going to still recognize them as a sovereign country, and that these are currently the leaders of the sovereign country. And our government has got a lot of work to do to decide if those who remain in power are going to continue to work with them in a way that inures to the benefit of America. And if they're not, I suspect there'll be more changes. Just like this one, they did not start kinetically. They did not start by going in and trying to grab him. They started by offering him many off-ramps, many opportunities to say, look, we know what you did. You got to step down. And the fact that the Biden administration, Trump administration had not just got indictments on them or were recognizing the indictments, but they had rewards out for this guy. What was it, up to like $50 million?
I think so. Yeah.
And I did I had to do a search. Like, all of the major international unions and associations did not recognize the legitimacy of this president, right? So we keep calling him, if you look at the news, so they'll keep referring to him as the president, the president, the president. Yeah, I think it's key to note that while, the UN doesn't recognize presidents or not recognize presidents, but the European Union certainly has come out saying they did not recognize the legitimacy. The collective of South American countries came together and said they do not recognize the legitimacy of that presidency. So there was a lot of pressure to get that guy out. And that's just from the international interest level. The law enforcement angle that you talked about was even more interesting, because those are unanswered questions. Even during this entire conversation, we just got to keep putting question marks on, because would it have been better for them to get UN concurrence and support for the operation?
Maybe.
And the question is, well, what triggers UN? What triggers our ability to go into a sovereign country and remove the head of the country? Right? You're talking about self-defense, and the questions are, when a transnational criminal organization trying to hold themselves out as a legitimate president of a country is also flooding your country with drugs, and is also flooding your country with
4 seconds, guys. Back to radio. Here we go, guys. All right, guys, welcome to Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com. My name is Chip DeBlock, and I'm your host, and we're a group of law enforcement professionals that talk about today's news and issues, but we do it from a law enforcement perspective. And you recognize him, Von Kleem. He's here from Force Science, and he's an attorney, former law enforcement as well. Thanks so much for being back on the show, Von. Love having you. And we got some deep stuff that we're going to be talking about today as well. So, and that was some, talking off camera before the show. Some interesting stuff, and he's dialed in on what's going on in the national news. Also, a shout out to our sponsors, guys, and please support our sponsors. They go the great lengths to bringing this good quality content to you. We have our title sponsor, Galls at galls.com, complianttechnologies.com, our satellite sponsor. We have aeroprecisionusa.com. Arm sponsor, we have gunlearn.com, mymedicare.live, safeguardrecruiting.com, our streaming sponsor, and thanks to them, we're reaching over 1 million followers right now during the live show on social media. And twobells.com, they built a new online store at leoroundtable.com, and fisherorlandobass.com. Zach has got a bass fishing charter in the Orlando area, and if you don't want to do the bass fishing thing, he's also got the alligator hunting. You catch and relocate the wild Florida alligator. So you have options, fisherorlandobass.com. And shout out to Brian Burns for the Tampa Free Press at tampafp.com. Thanks for carrying our content, Brian. Also, Ray Dietrich, former lawman.com, and Travis Yates with lawofficer.com. Thanks to all those entities for helping make the show happen. And now, what in the world are we going to be talking about today? We've got a special article. Vaughn is in it. Top 5 police recruiting lessons from Von Kleem. So if you've got an agency and you're having some hiring woes, pay attention. We're going to give you a little free bit of advice. And we've also got Trump's Venezuela gamble and America's shifting national security strategy. We've got some excerpts from that article, which is it was a heavily slanted article. It took me a little bit of work to be able to extract some truthful stuff out of there, but we found it. And then we have captured Venezuelan dictator Maduro. He pleads not guilty before the judge cuts off his outburst. We've got Albuquerque police fatally shooting a guy named Brian Womack, who was attacking a woman with a hammer, of all things. We have a burglary suspect cries in pain when he's being tased by a Port Orange deputy. And the trial begins for a former officer and the Uvalde response. We haven't talked about Uvalde in a while. Then we got Monterey County deputy shot an armed man through the windshield. And then finally, federal judge dismisses a consent decree that was meant to spark police reform in Louisville, of all places. And the funny thing is that the agency wanted it. They were begging a judge to bring it through, bring it on. And the federal government, the new Trump DOJ, said, you know what? we're done with these kids. They know that it's almost like the feds and Pam Bondi and company. They know these things are bad for America and they don't work. It's just shocking that Louisville, the light bulb didn't go off and they're not bright enough to figure it out. So we'll be covering that, assuming that we have time to get to it. So, Vaughn, if you're ready, you ready to go to the first two main stories?
Yeah, let's do it.
You're all over the first one, so you get ready to talk and keep that mic fresh and open because it's going to be quick. Lawofficer.com, the top 5 police recruiting lessons from Vaughn Claim. Now, I didn't even ask Vaughn for his permission before I'm going to give out these 5 things. I'm just going to touch on these, and of course, there's you gave an interview with Safeguard Recruiting. But hey, I'm gonna here's a cut to the chase. The 5 themes are: cast a clear and honorable vision. That makes sense. Number 1. Number 2, lead from the front. Leadership matters more than perks. And then, they're always giving these hiring incentives and stuff, right? Then number 3, be honest about the realities and the standards of the job. Don't sugarcoat it. Number 4, train smarter and advertise that training. And then lastly, number 5, defend realistic human performance in critical incidents. And that sounds like being a courageous police leader and backing your troops. So Vaughn, can you break this down for us?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. And I want to, I didn't know that article was out there until you pointed it out to me. So, hey, it's good to see. That was really premised or based on an interview I just did with Dr. Travis Yates over at Safeguard, right? So it was a fantastic sit down. The full video is on there. And let me tell you, we just wanted to talk a little bit about what were the challenges that police officers were facing in recruiting, and where we at today with those challenges. Has it improved at all? And from what I could tell, it's improved drastically for a lot of the agencies I talked to, really coinciding with the latest election and sort of the shift in how policing was being addressed, or being framed. And so that came up at the first one, class to clear, honorable vision. I don't think I framed it that way, but I like how it got framed. And really, here's all it came down to. We, for years, were sitting there being told cops are racist, abusive, and corrupt. Hey, do you want to sign up? Like, I can't make it any clearer. Like, who's going to sign up for that, right? Cops are systemically racist, abusive, and corrupt. And we wondered why we were having recruiting problems. And all I said was, look, it's no different for anything you try to inspire or persuade somebody to join. And that is, you have to cast a vision. And the benefit of American policing is we have an amazing vision to cast, right? So I just said, look, if you want to know about the culture of policing, it frustrates me to no end when I hear we got to change the culture. We got to change the culture. And I said, what culture are you talking about? Because the culture I grew up with and I consistently see today are police officers who run to the sound of gunfire. They stop the bleeding. They start the breathing. They are the ones who are committed to selfless service and duty first, right? This is who we surrounded ourselves with, and we still see out there. I said, why are you not painting that picture? Why are you not casting that vision so that people who are courageous and who want to have service minds, who do want to engage in a culture of constant and never-ending improvement, right? People who are tough and smart. That is who we surround ourselves with in American policing. Why not paint that picture? And certainly when you do, people will line up around the block to join that industry and that profession. So that was sort of a quick rundown of what we talked about in that space. But you've got to cast a vision people want to become a part of.
I love it. And it makes complete sense. So these agencies that are having such a hard time, and I know that you touched on, perks. We're going to give you a $40,000 signing bonus, or we're going to give you this, we're going to give you that. And, I always worry about cops doing the job for the right reason. I remember when I first got involved in law enforcement, I wasn't making a lot of money, especially with the way I grew up. My dad made a really good living, but it made me the good perk about that. I learned a very good work ethic early on, and I didn't have the capability to make as much money as my old man, but I liked nice things. I worked really, really hard to get nice, because I still like nice things, and I had an appreciation for nice things. And then a buddy of mine from high school called me up, and he said, he was overweight, out of shape, and had no fitness regimen at all. And he was interested in getting a job where I was working at the police department because of the money. And the money wasn't really that great, but he was working at like Radio Shack and stuff. And it was just like, and just seeing guys like that were taking the job for the wrong reason, and he didn't, he never would have made it through anyhow. But it's just that was a guy you don't want, does not belong. It's a calling, and it's a special job for special people. I don't mean that we're better than other people. I just mean that you have to have a certain aptitude in order to be able to do law enforcement, in my opinion. And you got to be able to turn it off too. Just because bad guy punches you and then puts his hands up and says, "Okay, arrest me. I'll put my hands behind my back." You just can't. I know a lot of guys that simply wouldn't be able to handle that. They're going to get theirs in first before they, and they're not going to make good cops. So I appreciate the article and given a free dummies 101 lesson on how they do recruitment, and it makes complete sense.
Yeah, and I think we got to get away from we have to stop running away from. Look, if I tell somebody what wakes me up in the morning, what do I get visually excited about, right? And someone says, I want to go fight evil. I want to go slay dragons. I want to go combat evil. And we have people going, well, now you can't call people evil. You can't. And you're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
look, when you're casting a vision and I see myself, yes, of course, not everybody's evil. Some people having really bad days. And then there are a population of people out there who are just pure evil, victimizing other people. We're going to see one today hitting someone in the head with a hammer, right? And you think to yourself, when you watch that, if you are driven towards wanting to be that cop at that place at that time, like that's where I want to be. When stuff like that's happening, that's where I want to be. Then this is the job for you, right? And it's not because you like beating on people. It's because you like standing between good and evil. You like standing between people who are corrupt or people who are abusing other people and potential victims. And you said, not everybody's able or willing to defend themselves. Not everyone has the intellect to be a cop. They don't have the physicality to be a cop. They don't have the restraint, like you mentioned. I talked to a bunch of guys in the military who were special forces guys. And let me tell you, in case of war break glass, that's who these guys are. And they were the first to tell me I could never be a cop. and what they were saying was, I'm not turning it off. Yeah. Once I get the green light. And that's not to say we don't have military members who are highly restrained and highly disciplined. Of course they are, but they understood their own limitations. And I think you highlighted one of them.
Yeah, and you need that. There's nothing wrong with that. You need guys like that in those positions, and God bless them. Hey, we're coming up on our first commercial break, though. Guys, stick with us. A lot more to come. We got some Venezuela stuff coming up. We'll be right back. All right, guys, it's time to talk about our title sponsor, Galls at Galls.com. And as police officers, we buy a lot of gear. And when you throw the online mix, it's like limitless, right? But I want to remind everybody, but what's really important here, and it's about supporting the companies that actually support law enforcement. And I don't know if a company does that better than Galls at Galls.com. And listen to this. Even their motto is proud to serve those who serve. It's on the banner behind me. And they do that in spectacular fashion. And they walk the talk by supporting dozens of focused organizations like this radio show. So when you're looking for gear, please support our title sponsor by going to Galls at Galls.com. And, we're actually going to be giving away a free $50 Galls gift card today. I got the ticker going. If you type in the word Galls, Galls, and give us your email address, it's a digital card. I'll be able to email it to you at the end of the show. If you're watching the stream, you can type it in during the live show. And hey, they have gift cards. Hook up your family, friends, and loved ones with the new Galls gift card, and they will be your new best friends. All that you can get at Galls at Galls.com. And now it's time to talk about Compliant Technologies at CompliantTechnologies.com. And I know everybody here is familiar with my favorite product they have. It's called the glove. But in today's world, protection goes beyond physical safety. It's about safeguarding those on the front lines from what we call hidden threats. And that's where MyTech, a division of Compliant Technologies, comes in. Now, MyTech provides advanced protective solutions designed for law enforcement, corrections, and first responders. Their Eagle Protect nitrile gloves, they offer 4-hour fentanyl and saline protection, giving you peace of mind in high-risk environments. And their MyShield disinfectants and sanitizers, they eliminate 99.9% of germs, bacteria, and viruses on contact. And we're not done. They continue to kill for up to 28 days, helping you stay protected both on and off duty. So when safety is non-negotiable, trust MyTech to deliver the protection that you need. You can learn more about how to equip your team today by simply going to CompliantTechnologies.com/MITEK. Again, CompliantTechnologies/MITEK, because the best defense starts with the right protection. And check it out. All right, we got 2 minutes before we come back to the radio portion of the show. And all right, man, off to a good start, I think. So, and I got that ticker going. So yeah, just a little fresh reminder that if you haven't won the Goals gift card giveaway in the past 90 days and you're interested in winning a free $50 Goals gift card, all you have to do is type in the word Galls, Galls, and give us your email address in order to be automatically entered in. And I will hopefully be able to announce the winner if we have enough entries during the third commercial break. This is the first commercial break, so we're roughly about 30 minutes away, hopefully, from giving away that gift card. All right. And I'm checking out the chatter over here. Over here on well, actually all the outlets, but we got MVS is MVS is entering the Goals gift card giveaway. Look at that. And we've got a lot of good chatter over here. The Democrat will kill him before he can testify. All right. And we got a lot of good stuff here. A lot of guys backing up what you're saying there too, Vaughn. So you should go to bed with your head in your pillow, feeling pretty good tonight.
Oh, on the recruiting issue?
Yes. You know, it's nice. You know, you're not just a pretty face, Vaughn. You know, you actually, there's substance to what comes out of your mouth.
You know what? We got a minute, right? Well, 40 seconds. So I laugh. I went to a conference back, you know, at the height of the anti-police movement, right? Progressive police reform tsunami, as I called it. And it was so little thought that went into some of those progressive reforms. They were just beyond human performance capabilities. But when I sat there and said the quiet part out loud at a conference, I had cops coming up crying, you know, on breaks because they were starving for somebody to support them. Right? It got ridiculous how bad.
Back to radio, guys. Go. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip DeBlock, and I'm your host. We're joined by Attorney Vaughn Kleem, former police officer as well with Force Science. And Vaughn, thanks so much for the introduction into the right ways to get guys to come work for your agency and what they do. Are you ready to cover the Venezuela, the latest and the greatest with that? We got two stories back to back.
Yeah, let's talk about it. But I tell you, we're gonna have a lot of question marks at the end of each sentence instead of periods or exclamation points. There's just so many unanswered questions right now.
Well, this is going to be short because, you know, we covered it pretty much in depth yesterday, about 45 minutes, the majority of the show. On this one, though, realclearpolitics.com. And look, this article, even though Real Clear Politics, you know, one of our Secret Service guys, Rich Derpoli, hooked me up with them. So it's a great source to get news, but it's mixed in liberal, conservative, and, you pick up very quickly, where they're at. So this is extremely left-leaning. There's a lot of inaccurate data in here and some flat-out falsehoods. And then anything that's left up to interpretation, they're going the other way on that. So it's titled Trump's Venezuela Gamble and America's Shifting National Security Strategy. So what they're saying is that Trump took a risk, and they're saying that he's changing his mind on national security strategy, like he's not doing what he said he was going to do. So I'm going to jump down to the nuts and bolts of this. Venezuela under President Nicolas Maduro had opened its arms to China, Cuba, Iran, and Russia by way of both trade and military cooperation, which is true, been thoroughly established with multiple media sets. That's not even up for debate. The White House alleged that this amounted to a violation of the Monroe Doctrine, and people, and if you haven't heard about the Monroe Doctrine lately, you're going to a 19th century precedent named after then President James Monroe, and it basically, they say it's an opposition to colonial meddling in the Americas by the Europeans, but they really want. Look, we're in the Western Hemisphere. We're going to control that. You guys control your own hemisphere, but we don't want our enemy to be able to park and put up shop in Venezuela into South America and be able to launch an attack, right next door to us. So we want to really have some kind of input and control over that. And that is that's not a Donald Trump thing. That is that was started with President James Monroe. So now they're calling it the Monroe Doctrine, though, which is kind of humorous. And then finally, we're going to jump down to where they talk about Attorney General Pam Bondi, who we love. She characterized the operation as an arrest with the military support. And Marco Rubio has also said that extremely well. Kentucky Rep Thomas Massey wondered, though, how that legal characterization applied to Trump's promise to take over and run the country. And that question will soon be litigated in Capitol Hill. So I think that we established yesterday that because they're titling this as a law enforcement operation, and it's not, unless you start opening up other doors, it's not a military occupation of a different country. We're not necessarily overthrowing governments and just doing an invasion. All these things. We're grabbing a bad guy that's currently wanted and that's been indicted here in the States. And it's just it's just a bonus that the guy's killing hundreds of thousands of Americans with the dope that they're sending over here illegally too. But it is a fair question that that Rep Massey is asking. The promise to take over and run the country. Not saying that we're going to do it permanently. There's going to have to be a transition of power, but that I have to acknowledge in all truthfulness that it's a fair question. So, Vaughn, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this one because really not a lot of substance on this one, and we have the plea coming up for Maduro. But your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think some of the bigger challenges I've seen isn't whether or not we had the legal authority. That stuff's going to be fleshed out, and ultimately there may not be a right answer other than might makes right. This is when I practiced international operational law and domestic operational law when I was a military attorney, and these are really complicated questions. And sometimes it really came down to there are international norms, and a violation of the international norm is sometimes just unenforceable when you're a superpower. And that might just be some of the logic, whether that's tasteful or distasteful, whether it sits well. It either motivates you or it disincentivizes you, but when I'm looking at this just happened. Like the idea of what's going to happen next. So far, the people who have predicted all sorts of slippery slope and this parade of horribles for every Trump decision. World War III is around the corner with every Trump decision, and none of it has played out. And so you've got really smart people in that administration working with Donald Trump in a, as they say, judicious transition. And so we'll see what that looks like. And the thing I do notice that's frustrating is sometimes our politicians, particularly people who are new to international operational law, like use of force law, it's highly complicated. It's highly nuanced. And so Donald Trump, or anyone who's sort of new to those issues, he's a phenomenal businessman. This is his initial foray into the use of force internationally. He's going to talk in the gist. We're taking over the country might mean something very different to him than what it actually means to the lawyers and to the military. And so that sort of shorthand language is just providing a lot of fodder for the discussion. Fair enough. Lots of unanswered questions. I love that all of us are getting much smarter now in international operational law. But I can tell you historically, we have kidnapped bad guys internationally. The question is, how does that affect their criminal case? Historically, it hasn't. But what we do know is when you pull somebody into the United States federal court system, we then blanket them with the constitutional rights as though they were U.S. citizens. And so that is sort of interesting. That's why he's getting his due process rights. He's likely been Mirandized once he got here. All those sorts of protections now overlay him since we decided to bring him into our court system. So we'll see how it plays out. The other thing I would just comment on that I find a little bit ridiculous is a lot of the critics are demanding that he choose one justification, just one. Is it the oil? Is it the dope that he's running? Is it the fact that he's the head of a trans-international terrorist organization? Is it the fact that he's the base of operations for some of our adversaries, our competitors, however you want to frame them? He doesn't have to pick one. And as he's giving a press conference, or they're trying to explain what was the rationale or justification, we have, well, is it the drugs, or is it the oil? It's like, okay, well, stop. That's childish. He doesn't have to pick one. It can be all of the above.
Good point. And good segue for our next article. So guys, stick with us. It's still going to be Venezuela when we come back. We got a commercial break, our second one. We'll be right back. All right, guys, introducing Aero Defense by Aero Precision at aeroprecisionusa.com, a beacon of durability dependability, and all-American craftsmanship in the realm of duty rifles. And yes, we're talking about long guns. They're born from an aerospace engineering company, so you know these guys know what they're doing. And Aero Defense by Aero Precision demands perfection because settling for anything less is not an option when your life is on the line. Visit aeroprecisionusa.com for a lineup that matches every discipline because they basically have something for everybody. And you know, back since 1994, they've been quietly leading the AR builder parts domain, but now they're making waves in the complete rifle arena with soulless bolt actions. And that's not all. Their M4 E1 Pro and Mod 4 handguards, they hit the market back at aeroprecisionusa.com, the embodiments of duty rifle excellence that's now being tailored for the civilian customer. That means that now you guys can start getting your hands on the primo stuff and their M5 AR 308 platform, nothing short of spectacular. So don't settle for less when you can have the best. Head over to aeroprecisionusa.com, aeroprecisionusa.com. All right, 4 minutes before we come back to the radio portion of the show, guys. And I think we're off to a good start. Man, just like that, half the show's gone already, Vaughn. Incredible. And my attention span, I haven't fallen asleep yet. You're just incredible, man. That you've got that captive nature, that personality, a little bit charismatic. I feel like I'm in a revival or something. Crazy, man.
Well, we've got an audience to keep the interest of, and you got a show to run. So these are important topics, though, right? This is what makes it nice. We actually get in front of people who have been asking these same questions, and if we can add one little distinction to help them understand something great, and frankly, engaging with your audience like this, if I say something that they want to challenge, this is how we learn and grow. Is we expose ourselves, our ideas to massive audiences, and see what kind of pushback we get and what other ways of thinking about it. So this is again, it's exciting
I agree.
to be here with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I really, and I do this to myself. I love to debate, but I was always that guy that would walk away and say, "Man, I should have said this. I should have said that." I was never good at it. And then when I ran a law enforcement website called leoaffairs.com, and there was a lot of controversy. Oh my gosh, I was getting sued by freaking everybody. But it was a message board, and I'll tell you, my debating skills, because I did it on a daily basis, they got quite good, and I got quick. And so those are things that I never had before. And so I found out that, well, when I debate, I always try to go into debate literally willing to change my mind if there's enough compelling evidence that's presented to me. It's not my way or the highway. So when I'm debating someone, but I expect them to do the same thing too. Because obviously, if you have two differences of opinions, you're normally one person's going to be right and one person's going to be wrong. There are some rare distinctions that may typically not be accurate, but normally one's right, one's wrong. But if I can convince you and combine compelling evidence from good, vetted, trusted sources, I expect you to at least acknowledge, that there's a potential in being right, or maybe that I'm right, and I'll do the same for you. And that, but not everybody's like that. So normally when I'm dealing with people that aren't willing to do that, the first thing they always do, they want to change the subject to something that they think they can win. So they want to get off the one that they're going to lose. And then when I hold their feet to the fire, it almost always results in insults. That's where the name calling starts. And then the conversation's over, because they're not willing to concede, even when you own them with good, credible information. Most people don't know what they're talking about. Even with this Venezuela issue, and I'm driving yesterday, there's a dude that has Free Palestine in his rear window of his truck. And I'm thinking, if I pulled this guy over and asked him what that meant or what it was about, he wouldn't have a freaking clue. He has no idea about the history between Palestine and Israel. And, so anyhow, there's a lot of uneducated people, and I embrace that. But our job is to try to educate these people, and hopefully they trust us enough to do that. And we want them to research and to check the information, like you just said. Call us out, and if I say something wrong and they point it out, I'm man enough to admit it. I've got caught with my pants down before. So
yeah, well, listening to some of them, like I listen to the Young Turks every now and then, and I even watch CNN every now and then. It's maddening. It is maddening, the positions they take, but they have very different outcomes. And this is the other part, is their arguments are based on very different political goals and outcomes. And once you understand that, then a lot of what they say makes sense from their perspective. And you just get to say, well, we fundamentally disagree with the intended outcome. Same thing we're seeing here with Venezuela and the socialists and the New York, city mayor. the stuff that guy's going to do is going to make sense to none of you unless you understand his outcomes.
Great. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip the Block, and I'm your host. We're joined by attorney Von Kleem from Force Science. And you know what? You gave us a good segue to leave from Venezuela to go on the court here in New York. But before we do that, Vaughn, I know that you've got something special going, for Force Science, and you've got a training coupon. Could you tell our listening audience that's on the radio about that? I know the streamers can see it, at least the people on video on YouTube. But can you tell everybody about what you guys have going on at Force Science, and so they can take advantage of the opportunity?
Yeah, thank you so much. Hey, we got a couple things going on. One, we have the Force Science Conference. Even though I'm a part of it, it is widely considered one of the best law enforcement conferences in the country. We only hold it about every 2 years, September 22nd to 24th at Austin Metro, Texas. So September 22nd to 24th, save those dates in Austin Metro Force Science Conference. If you register now, you'll get a $100 off. Use our code earlybird26, earlybird26. Go to our website. You'll see our conference information there. It's forcescience.com, FORCE science.com. And also check out our training. The other exciting thing to announce is we just released the Force Encounters course. It is a online course. It will go through the human performance issues that are really important to understand if you evaluate force encounters, whether it's civilian or police. We're opening it up to civilians as well, and for your guests, for your audience members, we're going to give you a discount of 15% off for those who enroll through your program. So the coupon is FS15. Make sure I get the coupon correct for everybody, but I put it in the YouTube site, but it's FS15 off. So FS15OFF. There's a coupon. Come to our website, forcescience.com, go to our online course section and put in that coupon and save 15% off.
Yeah, and the FS stands for Force Science, I'm assuming. So
Force
FS
Science,
as in Force Science, 15 OFF. And yeah, take advantage of that opportunity, guys. And thanks for doing that on the live show, Vaughn. Moving along, we've got it's just really an update. But FoxNews.com captured Venezuelan dictator Maduro pleads not guilty before the judge cuts off his outburst. This is a little humorous. Nicolas Maduro indicted for major drug trafficking and weapons charges. He arrived in federal court in New York at noon on Monday, and that is for the arraignment. And minutes into the proceeding, the judge had to cut him off when he claimed that he'd been kidnapped. So Judge Alvin Hellerstein had asked him to confirm his full name. And he goes, I am Nicolas Maduro Moros. And he goes on to say, my name is President Nicolas Maduro Moros, President of Venezuela. I'm here kidnapped, and I'm here since January 3rd, Saturday. I was captured at my home in Caracas, Venezuela. And then the judge cuts him off and says the hearing was not the proper time for him to protest the arrest. And then the judge asked him to enter plea. He said, I am innocent. I am not guilty. I am a decent man. I am still president of my country. Now, the defense attorney, and Vaughn touched on this in one of the earlier segments, you come here and yeah, we extradite you, you're given an attorney. He's got a defense lawyer, Barry Pollock, who is not missing, he's not pulling any punches. He added that Maduro was pleading not guilty to all 4 counts. And they're preserving their right to challenge other things. Now, Maduro waived an official reading of his 4 charges, and they are narco-terrorism, conspiracy, cocaine importation, conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. So there's a lot of information I would really like to get my hands on involving those. And then his wife, Celia Flores, arrested in the raid as well. She also pled not guilty about 10 minutes after her husband did. And she said, not guilty, completely innocent. So those were her exclamations. Vaughn, any feedback on that?
No, I think what you're seeing, we talked about it a little bit earlier, is when we pull you into the U.S. criminal justice system, we're gonna umbrella you and protect you, or I should say, blanket you with the same rights we would give a U.S. citizen to the degree they apply. And so you'll expect things like arraignments, and you'll expect opportunities to present a defense and Miranda warnings, believe it or not. And so, we'll look to see how this court case plays out. We're going to have sufficient evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he did the crimes he was alleged to have committed.
Yeah, as we should. I mean, let's face it, you want it to be fair. So, so moving along, and thank you. Good commentary. Rumble.com, our favorite law enforcement video channel called This Is Butter. We have, this is the hammer attack. We're Albuquerque police. They fatally shoot this bad guy, Brian Womack, who was attacking a woman with a hammer. So the Albuquerque police released the video. It's an officer-involved shooting. It happened in late September. When officers get to this apartment, they discover a guy attacking a woman with a hammer, and they open fire to stop him. But that's not exactly how it started off. So the man police shot and killed, he was the person that actually called police to the Valderotrosca apartments. Brian Womack, 42 years old. Now, he originally called, and there were 3 calls. He originally called saying that there was a woman trying to break into his apartment. So officers get there, and they say that Womack and a woman inside didn't let him in, didn't open up the door and answer it. So officers, they leave, and then they come back when Womack calls them a second time, but Womack would still not open up the door. Now dispatch could say 3rd call. They go back to the apartment, 3rd time, and the woman inside could be heard yelling. And the officers, they end up kicking the door in. And as soon as they breach the door, the woman's on the floor. Womack's, they say, and it's really hard to tell from the video, but they say he's actually hitting her with a hammer. So one officer open fires and he hits him. Now, he sustained 6 gunshot wounds to his chest, arms, and back. And medical aid was rendered, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. And Deputy Commander Robert Drager is given the information on that. The door was barricaded with a refrigerator when the officers kicked it in. I was amazed knowing that they were able to get in as quickly as they did. Police say the woman was a friend of Womack's and that she was scared that he's going to kill her. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you think if he's got a hammer and beating you with it, I would be too. She sustained injuries to her head, hand, and back. And it said that he had a history of run-ins with the police, and they had 32 interactions since 2013 with law enforcement. Von Kleen.
Yeah, so these are the cases we get. I'm not on this particular case right now, but I can already imagine that. Well, I won't be now if I talk about it. So, but yeah, so we look at this, and there's going to be all sorts of defense arguments already being made. I don't think they're legitimate arguments. I initially thought, when the first question is, when could they legally go in, right? And you hear the exigent circumstances, the need to make immediate entry for the safety of others, right, constitutes an exigent circumstance. Everyone knows that. Cops know that. Public safety exceptions. They hear the screaming, right? They could have made entry sooner. They have to. It's a discretion, though. They have to decide when they think they have enough. They kick the door. The question's going to be. The defenses are going to be, they shot him in the back, right? They shot him after he dropped the hammer. If you slow motion the video, why did it take so many shots? Why did they shoot after he'd already turned? Why did they shoot after he dropped the hammer? The answer to that is all going to be easily explained through human performance considerations. It's about perception. It's about how long it takes to start shooting and how long it takes to stop shooting. So not to turn this into a case analysis, the officer did a great job once he analyzed that threat. He used a quality of force, as we say, to immediately and decisively stop the threat. And then he stopped when something changed in the environment that told him he could stop and reevaluate. And I already know who's going to come and testify. I already know the defense arguments are going to be that he should have stopped immediately as soon as the guy started to turn away, and that once the guy dropped the hammer, it's unreasonable to shoot, as though any human in that circumstance would have noticed he dropped the hammer or would have immediately known that him turning away from gunfire necessarily meant the threat had ceased versus he was just improving his tactical position. So lots of things to anticipate for that case. I suspect those officers will be sued in due course. And I hope their agency's backing them quickly. I don't know the answer to that.
And it is true. It's all, it's funny as you're talking, it's a reminder to me that there's always a human component. Not that that's always a bad thing. I think there's positives to that. But some of the restrictions that we have as humans, we can't foretell the future, right? And so, like you said, when the bad guys, shots are being fired and he's moving away from the gunfire, doesn't mean that any threat is diminished whatsoever. And of course, I know you didn't talk into the delays and the reactionary time and your brain having to visually see something, process it, decide what to do, and then send the signal to your trigger finger to have it stop pulling the trigger or to pull the trigger. So all these things, that human component, that factor, and so that should be an interesting trial, and hopefully they'll have a sharp judge and or jury for that one. So it's a good breakdown.
Yeah, I hope it never makes it to a judge or jury. We've got qualified immunity for a reason, and hopefully, and we're talking about a civil case. This should never make it to a criminal indictment.
Well, you bring up a good point. Qualified immunity, which means, of course, you have to qualify for it. So many people I run into want to get rid of qualified immunity. They're not talking about absolute immunity that judges and prosecutors get. They just don't understand that we have to qualify for qualified immunity every time. It's not something we get blanketly, but we got 16 seconds, guys. It's a third commercial break. Hopefully we'll be announcing the Gulls winner in a second. We'll be right back. All right, now it's time to talk about GunLearn at gunlearn.com. And as law enforcement officers, we deal with guns every day, but it's what we don't know about them that gets us in the trouble. Injuries, civil lawsuits, accidental discharges, misidentifications, lost prosecutions, and disciplinary issues. But gunlearn.com, they have your back. You can quickly become extremely firearm knowledgeable by simply learning 14 training modules from the convenience of your home or your office, or by attending a live seminar at gunlearn.com. You can also become a safe, certified, and competent certified firearm specialist like our very own Captain Brett Bartlett and also attorney Ken Affianco. Now, the course has had huge success in raising the bar of firearm knowledge, and GunLearn has been a trusted source since way back in 2011 by gun manufacturers, federal agencies, forensic organizations, and police departments nationwide. Now, if you have your own agency, if you're a chief or sheriff, the founder, Daniel Kelly's, has got a deal for you. You can actually host a seminar for absolutely no cost. It's an amazing opportunity, and you can go to gunlearn.com to get more information. And we've got 2 minutes before we come back to the radio portion of the show. So let me go ahead and check and see how we're looking as far as contestants, for the free $50 Gulls gift card giveaway. Matter of fact, I'm going to go in and get rid of the ticker because I'm confident that we've got enough in order to be able to give that away. So I'm scanning right now YouTube, all the Facebook pages that we're streaming to right now. And I'm also popping over to LinkedIn. And don't worry, Rumblers, I'm going over the Rumble too and making sure that we've got all you guys included. So, and all right, we've got a couple more here, and we have a winner. Our winner is actually on the Rumble platform, and our winner just made a post saying that, talking about what Vaughn was talking about. You keep shooting until he stops moving, until the threat is gone, correct? And that is MVS 2020. So MVS 2020, congratulations for winning the Gulls gift card giveaway. And that was a tight crowd too. So and MVS is on a couple platforms. So congratulations, guys. And I have the email address as well, so I can get that to you. So another good day when we're able to give away free $50 gift cards, especially to a place like Gulls that pretty much has everything but guns and ammo. So you can't beat that, Vaughn.
Yeah, well, and you guys know, I think your audience knows, I'm actually on the advisory board for Gulls, and I have done nothing but enjoy working with them. They are 100% committed to getting it right. I don't know how else to say it. They want to support public safety professionals, and they want to know what right looks like, and they are putting their time and treasures behind it. So big fan of Gulls.
Yeah, Mike Fadden's a good guy. And I got my Mission Made pants. I circulated something on, I don't know if you saw what I put on LinkedIn with the Mission Made pants, my new Danner boots that I got from them, but back to radio. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip DeBlock, and I'm your host. We're joined by attorney Vaughn Kleem from Force Science, former police officer as well. And wow, we're moving right along. So Vaughn, I'm going to leave this decision up to you. This next one, it's a tough one. Are you ready? Yeah. So look, I think we have time for two more. And so what I was going to suggest, if you want, now there is a video, this burglary suspect. He's pretty much a wimp because he's just like, he can't handle being tasered. And then we've got the update article where we've got a trial starting for the Uvalde police officer. So I was going to take them, unless you wanted to jump out of order, I was going to take them in that order, the video, and then the Uvalde cop that's going the trial. So unless you wanted to cover one of the other ones.
No, let's do those, and I'm going to highlight a couple of things from what I call police practices perspective. It's like what many of the audience may not know, the way cops look at some of these things and we reasonably expect the issues are going to be, because they're pretty obvious in those, the legal issues and the police practice issue.
Okay, we got 8.5 minutes, so let me jump into this. Rumble.com, the name of our favorite law enforcement video channel called This Is Better. They come up with the best videos, law enforcement videos, faster than anybody. So we're in Port Orange, Florida. So this is not going to make the Florida guys look too studly, but a man and a woman from Port Orange, they were arrested in December, and they're accused of stealing from a local apartment complex, according to police. So maintenance supplies were reported stolen from the complex on December the 18th by the Port Orange Police Department, and they identified Sean Johnson, 39 years old, and his girlfriend, Diana Ruth Persad, 50 years old. So she's the cougar, right? She's like, what, 11 years older, than her boyfriend. They're both identified as the suspects. So we got body cam footage. The police officers, they show up outside the couple's residence. So our first cop of the body cam, he's like right around the corner of the garage. And the garage door opens, bad guy's coming out. The cop turns the corner. There's the bad guy. He sees the cop and he's like booking it back inside the open garage, trying to get back in the house. And so our cop goes taser mode on him, and he gets a good, in Florida, we don't wear a lot of clothes, Vaughn. So you get your taser propensity for a good taser contact goes up. This guy, man, he gets hit and he's like screaming like a little girl. The guy is no stud at all. I was like, I got to say, as a man that grew up here and was born in Tampa, Florida, it was embarrassing. It made all the Florida dudes look bad. The way the guy's just like screaming, it's just a little taser, I don't know. He's doing the 5-second ride. So he exits the residence, comes out of the garage, sees the cop, starts running. The cop chases him and hits him with the taser like immediately. And then while this is going on, the female's not too loyal. She should be happy that she's got this 11-year younger dude, but no, she bails out of the back of the freaking house with her 7-year-old daughter and ends up hiding at a neighbor's house, and they catch her. Totally abandons the young buck that she's been shacking up with. So anyhow, that's the way this goes down. Vaughn, explain this to us. How does this happen?
Yeah, so I'm just going to tell you what the questions are, right? So when he first comes in, he sees the guy coming out, and we're gonna analyze both the guy's response and the officer's initial action. So, don't move, show me your hands sort of thing is different than, or if he says, show me your hands versus don't move or you're under arrest, the guy turns and goes back in at the sight of a police officer. I think he has his gun or at least taser drawn already at this point. I look, the yelling and screaming, there's two things going on. It's performative. He's doing it so that all the neighbors, anyone who think the police is touching you, are abusing you. He's setting up a civil case. This happens so frequently. Ouch, ouch, you hurt me, is just a tactical SOP by bad guys, which makes it tough because you got to then distinguish between the guy who's actually got a bum arm or, something's hurting versus the ones who are just being performative. In this case, two things. One, I don't know if you've ever had a kid getting ready to get their first shot and they're screaming, ow, 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 and the needle's already out. like it's gone in.
That was me.
Right. Yeah. So there's a little bit of anticipatory anxiety going on here. He's imagining this is going to hurt really, really bad. He does. He's under the impacts of neuromuscular incapacitation. So he did feel it. But then the rest of it's either A, performative, or B, it's just that sort of anticipatory anxiety that just, he doesn't know how to manifest it, right? It's coming out as yelling and screaming and whatever, the police officer, this is what's important for the citizens to understand. Police officers see this all the time. Yelling and screaming, ouch, it hurts. It does not necessarily mean they're in any pain, any discomfort, or certainly no injury. Although those things have to be investigated. But if you watch why the officers are not immediately jumping down or backing off and they're still trying to gain compliance, it's because those are very, very frequently just performative tactical SOPs by bad guys, the yelling and screaming. We have examples where we train attorneys. We show them videos, same thing, yelling and screaming, performative, ouch, 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 you're hurting me. And then the suspect actually turns and kills the police officer. So cops have to keep their distance. They got to gain control of the person, which is what they did in this case. The other thing you got to look at, just really quickly, is the confusing and inconsistent orders. Yeah, the inconsistent orders, like don't move, get on your stomach with two officers yelling. That can be confusing too. So the guy who is disoriented because he's been caught, he's at a high level of emotional state, as he should be as the bad guy. He's confused. He doesn't know what to do. And we train cops to recognize that. One voice, clear, consistent commands. Don't tell them, show me your hands, and don't move simultaneously. None of that has to do with their authority or the legitimacy of what they did. It just has to do with sort of what's unfolding on camera for your audience members.
You're talking about performative. I was just thinking about preserving that sound bite and just using that in videos that we don't have with good sound bites, like some guy getting tasered and taken like a man. I may throw that in there, make it more entertainment value for the show. I'm just saying that you got to be thinking about the whole performative thing now. Hey, we got 3 minutes, so let's go to this next one here. Update article: trial begins for the former officer in the Uvalde response. Lawofficer.com. So the criminal, not civil, criminal trial of a former Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District police officer. It started this week. It's rare that it happens, but it's about the 2022 Robb Elementary School shooting response. And there's been a lot of national conversations about it. Prosecutors allege that this former officer, Adrian Gonzalez, notice I said former, failed to take appropriate action during the response, and they charged him with child endangerment. Defense attorneys argue that the officer operated within the constraints of information authority and chaos present at the time. But don't forget what had already happened. Broward County Deputy Scott Peterson, remember the coward, Marjorie Stone Douglas High School, Parkland. Don't forget about that. We're just done with people making excuses for poor performance and being cowards. The trial is being closely watched because it raises questions about individual criminal liability during rapidly evolving and critical incidents. So, Von Kleem, break it down.
Yeah, so big questions coming up here. Here's our what I call the tension points. We've got a entire culture of police and trainers and sort of progressive activists who have been telling cops for the last couple, for the last 5-6 years, slow down, create space, buy time, do not rush in. If you do rush in, we're going to hold you criminally accountable because you created the danger. You need to slow things down, negotiate from a position of cover. Now, that's ridiculous when you think about an active shooter. The problem is legally, police understand they don't have a duty to an individual. They have a duty to society at large, and tactics are discretionary, which means not doing something is discretionary tactic, doing something is a discretionary tactic, and the timing of it. So these are the challenges they're going to have with this theory of liability. Is one, we've got this constant pressure on cops. If you run in to engage violence with violence, we're going to hold you criminally and civilly liable. And we have officers going to prison for that. And now we have a guy who's trying to slow things down. I don't know what his motivation is. I haven't followed his particular case, but I tell you, I'm looking at it from a position of tension points. We have a culture saying slow down, create space, and negotiate. Do not meet violence with violence. And we have another one that's saying, wait a minute, tactically, we've got to go direct a threat and meet violence with overwhelming violence right now. And so, which we think in an active shooter is the right idea. Look, I watch SWAT, I work SWAT, I work high risk narcotics entries. I'm very familiar with the issues that go into going direct to threat and in active shooter training. I am not at all arguing slow down, create space, and buy time. What I'm identifying is the tension point that's going to happen in that courtroom where we have all these police administrators and these progressive reform organizations that have been screaming at cops to stop meeting violence with violence, slow down, and de-escalate everything. And when you see that play out in circumstances like this, then it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yeah, or it'll at least feel that way.
Excellent point. It'd be nice to have the backing so you could do your job a little bit better. But I've seen training all over the place on this too. But we have had we've had less embarrassing moments as time's going on at they expose some of the stuff. The cop using the sanitizer and all that. So it'll be interesting to follow this one and see what happens. Right. But Vaughn, excellent having you on the show, and I'm glad to see things happen for a reason. So we talked about some of these tough topics, and you just happen to be on the show. You're the only guy, you maybe Jamie Borden, that can handle this kind of stuff. So thank you so much for being on the show, and also another shout out to Critical Incident. You guys have got it going on over there. And guys, I'm going to put up the website up on the on the screen as well. Or I'm sorry, I said critical incident, I meant Force Science. So sorry, forcescience.com. That ticker's on there. Guys, please support our sponsors again. We've got galls.com, complianttechnologies.com, aeroprecisionusa.com, gunlearn.com, and medicare.life, safeguard recruiting, 2 bells and fish, orlandobass.com. And we'll see you guys hopefully back tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern. Now we're going to keep it going for another minute and a half on, just to make sure that the satellite company's happy. Any final words to our listening audience, our streamers that are still here?
No, we keep pushing for honest accountability in all these videos we're watching. This is LEO Roundtable, so we're looking at police. We're looking at broader than that, but we're looking at police actions. And one of the critical things missing in all these evaluations of cops is this idea of honest accountability. That is our commitment. It's two things. One, that the policies and laws have to be clear enough that an officer can predict the lawfulness of their own behavior, right? Look for that and make sure that's the case. And two, we can't have expectations that are beyond human performance capabilities. And so if we keep those two concepts, then we can continue to demand honest accountability.
You're absolutely right. Never thought about it in those terms before, but you're absolutely right. Hey, two things that I'm thinking about. Number one, am I going to see you at SHOT Show? Or
100%. Yeah.
Oh, all right, good.
We'll be presenting at SHOT Show. Lon Bartel over at Vertra and myself will be putting on a law enforcement education program, part of the LEAP program. We're actually going to be presenting at SHOT Show. And unfortunately,
will that be at the Vertra booth, or?
No, we actually will be hosting a class. So there'll be a classroom assigned. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. So, and hopefully, more importantly, we'll be breaking bread together at some point during that as well. So
yeah, I'll be coming in a little bit early. So let's plan something because I have court that week also. So as soon as we get done training, I got to bail out, go testify up in, I think, Fort Wayne, Indiana. And then we'll see what's going on. I may fly back to Vegas afterwards and finish out the show. We'll see.
I'll be there Sunday. So we'll plan something. And Sunday the 18th is when I'm getting there with Brett Bartlett. And hey, just while our listening audience, and Vaughn, I sent an email out Sunday, but I don't know if he, I don't know how many people read all the stuff in the emails, but there is a promotion that we're doing that I'm just gonna, don't give me an answer. I'm not gonna put you on the spot, but I'm gonna let you know about it and our audience know about it. So Force Science, I'm sorry, not Force Science, complianttechnologies.com, who has the glove. We have put together a little fundraiser for the Wounded Blue, Randy Sutton's 501c3. So what we're going to do is the people on the show, on Leo Roundtable, that are going to happen to be at, SHOT Show during that week, the 20th through the 23rd, they have the opportunity to go under the glove. And so our users, subscribers, and listeners and viewers, they can donate money to the Wounded Blue in the name of whoever they would like to see get the glove on them. So, and whoever stays the longest with the glove being applied, that person will get a set of gloves that they can, donate to an agency, because an individual cannot own the gloves, but they can donate to an agency of their choice. And the civilian that donated the most money, so let's say Vaughn lasts, 5 seconds or 1 second longer than I do, and he lasts longer than anybody, he'll get a set of gloves. And then if MVS sponsored him and gave the most money for Vaughn, then MVS will get a set of gloves too that he could donate to an agency. It's kind of like a win-win, and it helps get the glove in the agency as well. And the money goes to the Wounded Blue. So anyhow, so think about that, and if you're interested in being part of that. But I also wanted to let our people know about it. So we will be announcing, it's supposed to be a landing page at thewoundedblue.org. You'll see that hopefully shortly. And MVS won the Goals gift card giveaway today. Congratulations, MVS. I'll send an email off at the end of the show. And guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll look for you guys back tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern. Thanks for the support. We really appreciate it. And take care.